Hello, I'm Daniela. This is episode 20 of Historical Paranormal. In this episode, we'll talk about the urban legend of vanishing hitchhikers, their origins, and ties to other famous women in white. The highest prevalence of sightings of vanishing hitchhikers was in the 1960s and 1970s, although stories date back to the 1800s. Variants of the vanishing hitchhiker are told all over the world, each imbued with its own local color and details. In Chicago, the homesick ghost is known as Resurrection Mary and is said to haunt Resurrection Cemetery in nearby Justice, Illinois. In Northern California, she is known as the Niles Canyon Ghost or White Witch of Niles Canyon. In Dallas, the Lady of White Rock Lake. In Spanish-speaking countries, she is often referred to as La Chica de la Curva. Some elements of vanishing hitchhikers are that a motorist is driving at night, although in past, sometimes the driver was actually riding a horse or in a carriage. Usually the individual is traveling alone on a lonely stretch of road when their headlights cast a light on a lonesome figure. The driver is usually a man, and he picks up a lonely hitchhiker, which is a woman. However, the genders have been reversed or the same in certain tales. Usually, the driver lends the hitchhiker an item of clothing and hence has a reason to find him or her later on. The hitchhiker is usually silent on their ride or issues some kind of warning about the future. Before or on reaching their destination, the hitchhiker vanishes, and the item that they leave behind helps the driver identify their former residence, or if they disappear at the destination, the driver usually looks for an explanation. Whenever the driver explains the reason for visiting their residence, they are met with confusion by whoever dwells there, and a picture on the wall confirms the driver is in the correct location. The driver may learn that the grieved loved one that the hitchhiker picked up died several years ago. An example of this is Resurrection Mary, who, as legend goes, was dancing the night away at O'Henry Ballroom on Archer Ave in her white dress, and when she went outside, a car struck and hit her. She died, but her place of burial was Resurrection Cemetery. The first set encounter with her came from 1939, when Jerry Paulus claims he danced all night with a woman at 47th Hall. She gave him an address, but when he went to drop her off, she vanished at Resurrection Cemetery. He visited the address she had given him the next day, and a woman who was her mother came to the door and said it was impossible. He had spent the night with her daughter because she had been dead for several years, yet he could identify her by her family portrait in the house. Another odd feature of most vanishing hitchhiker tales is the item that they may have lent it to the vanishing hitchhiker often is found at the gravestone. Other variants include hitchhikers who utter prophecies before vanishing in front of the driver, typically of pending catastrophes such as natural disasters or other evils. Usually in this case, the hitchhiker is an older woman, and subsequent injuries reveal them to be deceased. One famous example, according to the reports in Tacoma, Washington's News Tribune, following the Mount St. Helens eruption on May 18th of 1890, many drivers swore on oath that they saw a woman dressed in white with her skin matching the color of the garments, thumbing a ride by the side of the road near the mount. She would get into the car and would eventually say in a ghostly whisper, the volcano is going to erupt again between October 12th and 14th. Then, as suddenly as she disappeared, she would vanish. Sure enough, lava flowed through the volcano on October 12th. It was talked about as an urban legend of the time. Some people even swore that they picked up the woman in white before May 18th and that she predicted the big one. Another famous case of a hitchhiker warning of negative things to come is during World War II, where these stories were quite common. Usually a young woman who seemed to have prophetic visions would be picked up by a male driver. Other stories included soldiers returning from war, hitchhiking home only to vanish in the driver's back seat. The driver would then learn that the soldier had died overseas. In some cases, the hitchhiker is at some place of entertainment, for example a dance, instead of the roadside. In Hawaii, the story involves the ancient volcano goddess Pele traveling the roads incognito and rewarding kind drivers. In East Africa, usually the hitchhiker gets in with a truck driver, and she shortly after turns into a djinn or genie with goat legs and is revealed to be Pan, the deity of mischief, and he laughs, vanishing, which startles the driver and causes them to crash. Some explanations for what these sightings could be. Most believe them to be supernatural or a ghost or some kind of demonic entity, while others say these may be extraterrestrial experiences, while others point to more simpler answers such as cultural relevancy. These stories are a reminder of the importance of community, good people taking pity on seemingly distressed individuals. It could be warning of driving too fast at night or encouraging behavior changes. Whether or not vanishing hitchhikers are a true mystery of the past or just an urban legend used to caution those driving or traveling on lonely stretches of road at night, stories will continue to rack up. Thank you for listening to episode 20 of Historical Paranormal. If you'd like to check out previous episodes, you can check out the Historical Paranormal Events playlist. And thank you for listening. Stay tuned for next Sunday's episode.